Chapter 7: The Mysterious Visitor. In this world, wherever there is a continental highway, you can find a treehouse bar, even in the frozen continent of the ice and snow world. There is a fork in the road on the east side of the snow forest on the Longya Mountain Continental Highway. It connects to the capital of the Hami Kingdom to the north, to the northern Hami Kingdom to the east, and to the Frozen Fortress and the Northern Federation Center of the Holy See to the west across the snow forest. On the north side of this fork, there is a dense tree, which seems to be a kind of silver-leaf needlewood. It is about 5 meters in diameter and requires at least 10 people to stretch their arms to completely hug it. 10 meters above the ground is the famous treehouse bar. There is a square piece of bluestone under the bar. Guests who wish to enter the bar only need to stand on the bluestone, and they will be automatically teleported upwards to the door of the treehouse bar. The treehouse bar, which is the office of the Magic Guild, Mercenary Guild, and Thieves Guild, is always full of customers. Like all the treehouse bars on other continents, there are several beautiful elves in the bar fluttering their blue transparent wings, serving drinks and food to the guests. "Guests are here. Guests are here," said a well-behaved monkey-like beast-man at the door as he jumped high and took the hat covered with ice and snow from the hand of the middle-aged man who had just entered. At first glance, this man should be a noble, as can be seen from his very polite greeting to the monkey-like orc waiter. Only nobles would never lose their manners at any time, and only true nobles would be willing to sincerely thank a lowly race such as orcs. The nobleman slightly turned his body and pulled out a boy of about 16 or 17 from behind. As the noble and the boy walked towards the bar, more and more people in the bar stopped chatting and looked at the boy's back. The boy was carrying a two-handed sword that was almost as tall as him. If it was made of iron, the weight of the sword would be about the same as a two-handed axe or a knight's lance, which showed that the boy had considerable combat power. What was even more curious was that the sword was not sharpened. The boy also had a very good temperament, just like that nobleman, or more like a young scholar. He had flaxen hair that was naturally curly and draped over his shoulders. His skin was white with a hint of red due to years of exposure to the sun. Under his thick eyebrows were a pair of very straight eyes with a boyish shyness in his eyes. A natural smile appeared at the corners of his mouth. He was dressed in a white snow bear skin coat from head to toe and moved nimbly between the tables and chairs. Most of the regulars in the bar were mercenaries. Perhaps out of curiosity about the oversized two-handed sword, a big man who was obviously a mountain berserker stretched out his long legs and tried to trip the boy the moment he passed by. The timing was perfect, a tried-and-true trick so common in bars that most people would have imagined the boy tripping and being pinned down by the sword. The boy didn't notice the changes under his feet. He looked around curiously at every corner of the bar while walking. However, when his legs were about to be tripped, the boy suddenly and naturally stepped into the air and nimbly stepped over the trap. The crowd around him, ready to laugh, looked at the boy's agile movements and were unable to react for a moment. The instigator of the prank was also stunned with the big wine glass in his hand. The boy himself did not even notice this little conspiracy. "Hi, pretty gentleman. Come and sit here." A woman in a bright red cardigan greeted Chi Hanfeng in a tender voice. Seeing that there were still a few empty seats in front of her, Chi Hanfeng pulled Amy and walked towards the woman. "You're such a jerk, little brat. What are you looking at?" The woman proudly pushed her snow-white breasts towards Amy, her deep cleavage clearly visible. Poor little Amy was stunned by the white eyes. Chi Hanfeng took the initiative to help him out. "Miss, don't get me wrong. My nephew is only 14. This is his first time out. In our small village, there is no such a natural beauty as you, and even fewer who dress as fashionably as you. This is probably the first time he has seen the beautiful lady's breasts. I just don't know how it feels. So you're a newbie." The woman gently pinched Amy's little face. "Although you've grown up, you're definitely not as attractive as you are. Sir, would you like to have a divination? It's very cheap, only 5 gold coins. When did the world change? I haven't been out working for 5 years, so how come there's inflation? I remember that the standard magic divination only costs 2 silver coins." Chi Hanfeng sat down on the table in front of the woman, made a gesture to the waiter that only an expert could understand, and stared at the woman's chest unscrupulously and said lustfully, "Oh, sir, How can you say that? You see, it's not easy to make money in this icy and snowy place. How about I tell you the fortune for free? Well, if you don't let me tell you the fortune, disaster will come to you soon. Oh, really? Is that your fortune-telling spirit? Chi Hanfeng asked leisurely, holding the wine glass just handed over by the waiter, touching his nose. Hey boy, you dare to tease my woman. The mountain berserker just now was obviously in cahoots with the fortune-telling witch. He poked Amy's forehead with his hand menacingly and said, "Pay me compensation for your losses. How many times have you looked at my woman's breasts? I'll give you 10 gold coins for each time you look at them. Otherwise, don't even think about leaving the door today." Seeing the show being performed, the boiling bar quickly cooled down. Trash is trash. Chi Hanfeng stared at the berserker and stretched out his cold hands to rub the woman's plump breasts hard. Not only have I looked at them more than 100 times, I also touched them. How is it? It's quite warm, but a little saga. It's hard to imagine how someone like Chi Hanfeng would give up such a bargain. Amy, in this world, only the strong survive. Throw them out, or you'll have no food to eat soon. The bad middle-aged man didn't care at all about how much trouble he had caused. After throwing the bag to Amy, he sat in a suitable position, stretched his legs and put his 2 big feet covered with snow and water on the table, and began to watch the entertainment before dinner. The berserker seemed very satisfied that he didn't have to pick on the middle-aged nobleman, and took up the berserker's unique weapon from the table, the long battle axe. Several accomplices quickly helped him clear the area behind. Amy scratched her head. Uncle Chi usually didn't make jokes like that. It seemed that she had to earn a meal today. He took off the 2-handed sword behind his back and took a step back. The treehouse bar is really big. Even if someone sets up a duel venue here, it only occupies 1/10 of the treehouse bar. Boy, go to hell! The berserker roared. His whole body suddenly grew 2 sizes larger, and he rushed up incredibly quickly, chopping down from above with his 2-handed battle axe making a sound of wind. Amy didn't hesitate at all and rushed forward with her 2-handed sword. The axe bounced up, and the berserker didn't stop at all. The battle axe drew a small arc and chopped towards Amy's shoulder. The long sword adjusted slightly and went up again. The axe slid down the long sword to the ground, bounced up instantly, and backhanded the target to the lower abdomen. Amy's long sword could no longer be retracted, so she used the hilt of the sword to block the battle axe. Not bad, kid, you can take my 3 consecutive attacks. The berserker looked at the teenage boy in a bit of surprise, but, go to hell. Afterimage attack. Huge anger radiated from the berserker's sweat pores to the surroundings. When he moved in a small range, each time he moved, he left a translucent shadow in the original place. 1, 2, 3, 4. Be careful, he is a high-level berserker, and his afterimage also has attack power. In such an environment, encountering a very rare high-level berserker, Chi Hanfeng's appetite flew away. In a flat battle, an ordinary berserker can deal with more than 5 2-handed sword warriors, and a high-level berserker with 4 afterimages can probably fight more than 20 2-handed sword warriors. Berserkers are simply a nightmare for small-scale battles. Chi Hanfeng regretted it a little and had to remind Amy, once the afterimage is attacked, it will be broken. Unexpectedly, they would encounter such a tough opponent in their first real battle. However, when the Harbor family encountered this situation, most of them had only 2 words in their minds. Fight. Amy swung her long sword in the air twice very quickly, and the black blunt sword even left an afterimage in front of Amy. Sword afterimage? The bar, which was as cold as the weather outside, suddenly became lively. The berserker afterimage attack that only appeared in legends and the sword afterimage of the 2-handed sword warrior appeared at the same time, and the warrior using the 2-handed sword seemed to be only in his teens. Such a thing is enough to enter the chapter of the bard. To the surprise of the berserker, Amy took a big leap, passed through the afterimage of her own sword, and came in front of the berserker who was originally 3 meters away. She slashed left, middle and right with her 2-handed sword in an instant, leaving black sword afterimages. The berserker already knew that Amy's strength was enough to match his, so he used all his strength to use his battle axe to block the lightning-like sword shadow. The 4 afterimages also surrounded him at the same time, and the translucent afterimage battle axes chopped at Amy from 4 angles. The scream of afterimage disturbed the people in the Magicians Guild, Thieves Guild, and Mercenaries Guild located in the 3 corners of the bar. More and more people poured out of the guilds to watch this rare battle. An old magician with pale hair and beard walked out of the Magicians Guild. His wide blue magic robe was torn into pieces. On his chest was a magician-level symbol, indicating that he was a great magician with infinite magical powers. When he saw clearly the 2 people dueling on the battlefield, his eyebrows knitted together and he muttered to himself, "Could it be him? What is the happiest thing in the world? Mom said it was love. No, it's about owning pearls, agates, gems, and gold as high as a mountain, and sleeping on them every day. No, what you said is wrong. The happiest thing is to eat delicious fish. Get lost." I blew out a long flame, and with a strong flick of my tail, I swept several little guys who were not sure whether they were my grandchildren or great-grandchildren out of my cave. Alas, I am a dragon over 6,000 years old, but I still have such a bad temper. Every time I got angry at the little guys and lay on the mountain-like pile of gold and jewels, I could feel the condemnation from my heart. What is the happiest thing in the world? He grabbed a trout that some little fellow had gifted him, took a big bite, and white liquid flowed down the corners of his mouth. What is the happiest thing in the world? Ah, I remember. A long time ago, I was a little green dragon, so small that I didn't even know I was a dragon. I always thought I was a puppy. Ho, my stupid master de Qingshan also thought so. Every time he went hunting, he always took me with him. Once he shot the prey. If the prey was not dead, he always wanted me to chase it. I ran and ran desperately, but I couldn't catch up with it no matter how I stumbled. Later, I got anxious and shouted, "Ha-hoo," at those poor animals. Wow, they turned into ice sculptures, haha. At that time I didn't know that this was the instinctive dragon breath of the green dragon family. Every night, de Qingshan and I would compete for the roasted prey. The happiest thing at that time was to have a blazing bonfire in front of us after dinner. It was warm and I would rest my head on de Qingshan's full belly and count the stars in the sky one by one. At night, de Qingshan and I would sleep in the same bed, and he would like to hug my neck the most. Such happy days until we met that damn magician. I really miss my friends. Dakingshan, do you know that I miss you? What's wrong? It's so cold. Why did I hear that dragons don't shed tears? Excerpt from the Diary of Tamujelsai, the ancient sacred ice green dragon. Chapter 8 Dragon Diary. No one could imagine that the berserker's afterimage could attack from different angles. The 4 afterimages that were approaching quickly chopped at Amy's left shoulder, right shoulder, waist and legs at the same time with sharp axe sounds. The berserker in front roared, and his blood-red eyes were reflected on the equally blood-red axe blade, like a hot red iron stream, chopping down on her head. Ah! The few girls in the bar covered their eyes and screamed, "I summon you with my name. Come out, phantom beast snow wolf." Behind the huge barrier, Chi Hanfeng had already picked up his spear and shield, ready to go up and help Amy. "No need to help me," Amy, who was under the attack of the axe shadow, shouted. Her body shook incredibly, and she did a somersault and jumped out of the encirclement directly. Crack, crack. After several noises, the berserker's afterimage that collided with the sword's afterimage made a strange sound and shattered into pieces. The black sword drew a semicircle in the air and rushed towards the berserker with Amy wrapped around it. The long sword chopped down on his head. The berserker, who did not have time to activate the afterimage again, used his 2-handed battle axe to transform into countless phantoms and blocked the blunt sword with force. Without any pause, the black sword bounced up only half a meter and chopped down again with the sound of wind and the phantom of lightning. Ding-dong, ding-dong, ding-dong. Once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times, 8 times. The same direction, the same angle, the same black blunt sword, the same black sword shadow flashing like lightning. The berserker could no longer do anything else. The battle axe could only keep attacking, attacking, and attacking. Each time he attacked, he had to take a step back to gain space to meet the next sword lightning. Even with a blunt sword, this kind of power would cut a person in half. The blunt sword bounced up again, and the angle of the lightning changed suddenly. After drawing a strange half-arc, it appeared in front of the berserker's abdomen at the same time as Amy. The berserker, with the battle axe still in the air, exclaimed, and the biting coldness of the black lightning had already penetrated his skin. The two-handed sword cuts one in half. Someone in the bar exclaimed. The black lightning disappeared in an instant, and turned into a fierce sword wind. The long sword changed from horizontal to vertical in an instant, and hit the berserker's lower abdomen fiercely. The berserker flew up immediately, and disappeared in the direction of the door along with the huge battle axe. Such a battle was so thrilling that the people in the bar just breathed a sigh of relief. Howl! A strange voice that was definitely not human came from downstairs of the treehouse bar, tearing through the night sky that reflected the white snow, and everyone's hearts were immediately pulled tightly again. The huge treehouse bar was swaying like branches in a storm, and the walls were creaking. Boom! The west side of the house seemed to explode as if it could not withstand the huge pressure, and a huge figure wrapped in the cold wind outside rushed in. He's gone crazy. He's gone crazy, countless people exclaimed. Dong, dong. With heavy footsteps, the berserker appeared again, his rage burning like a medium. His body had doubled in size, tearing all the clothes on his upper body. Red sweat was flowing from every pore. A palm-wide purple blood mark appeared on the part of his abdomen that had just been hit by the sword, and his bloodshot eyes almost burst out of their sockets. You are all going to die. Ignoring the tables, chairs, and guests in front of him, the berserker rushed towards Amy like an angry bull. The tables and chairs made of coniferous hardwood were torn to pieces in front of him like paper. Oh no! In an instant, Amy's mind flashed through Chi Hanfeng's description of the berserker in the teaching of the mutual restraint of arms. If the berserker is a war machine, then the berserker after frenzy is a terrible destruction machine. The so-called frenzy is a skill unique to the berserker, selling life to the god of war Petro in exchange for several times the combat power. Some berserkers who often go frenzy can't even return to normal. The berserker after frenzy ignores any general attack. Unless the head falls off, the berserker will always maintain his huge destructive power. Any commander treats the berserker battalion with caution, and it is strictly forbidden to deploy any berserker battalion in conventional siege warfare. Otherwise, as long as there are a few berserkers going frenzy, what you get is not a city but ruins. It was the first time I went out of the city, the first time I fought someone, and I encountered such a strong opponent. It was really a big win. The young Amy nervously grasped the sword in her hand, and the black lightning flashed in the air again. Killing. Enough! A majestic voice sounded, and the furious berserker fell like a mountain in the ruins of tables and chairs. An old man walked out of the magic guild. He was wearing a red magic robe, and the emblem on his chest showed that he had the title of Grand Magician. Where there are mercenaries, we cannot stop everyone's private fights. But if the private fights for entertainment purposes turn into destructive wars, that is what we don't want to see. Please applaud the warriors who provided the sword afterimage and berserker afterimage for free today. Oh, and that noble fantasy beast knight and his lovely fantasy wolf. Let's applaud together. After the old magician finished speaking, he returned to the magic guild's house again. Several of the berserker's companions ran over and tried to help him up, but they found that the warrior, who was still in a berserker state, had become as solid as stone. He's been petrified. It will automatically free itself in 2 hours. A man next to them, who was obviously an intermediate magician, kindly reminded them. The great magician of the magic guild came forward. If there was no magician of equal strength, it would be asking for trouble if they came forward to provoke. Several elves quickly cast recovery magic in front of the big hole in the wall. The coniferous tree supporting the bar quickly responded and grew new branches and leaves on this side to patch up the hole. Before this, Amy had always doubted the magician's attack power. As a traditional knight, Chi Hanfeng rarely talked about magicians or the role of magicians in his professional teaching. When Amy saw a warrior who seemed to be invincible become at the mercy of others in an instant, she couldn't believe her eyes. Hey! Don't be silly. Chi Hanfeng pushed a glass of wine in front of Amy. Try this. It's delicious. This is the specialty of the Treehouse Bar, the 1,000 grass leaf-soaked wine, which has many effects such as refreshing, beauty, nourishing, aphrodisiac, and improving recovery. Grandpa is not around, so I will make an exception and let you drink some today. Actually, there is no need for you to be so surprised. Today we met opponents that we would never encounter under normal circumstances. The total population of berserkers is only 400,000 or 500,000, and the number of soldiers entering the armies of various countries does not exceed 100,000. There are no more than 500 berserkers who can cast afterimages 4 times, and no more than 100 berserkers who can cast afterimages 5 times. And there are no more than 10 people who can reach the top level and have 6 afterimages at the same time. And in the current Amy Empire, there are only 5 great magicians, and 1 person has entered the prayer tower, which means there are only 4 people. Together with the reclusive great magicians, the total number should not exceed 100. Seeing Amy's dazed look, Chi Hanfeng had to explain. Amy, did you hear what I said? If you become a Phantom Beast Knight, you can use the Phantom Beast's floating ability to easily kill the berserker. As for the great magician, well, as long as he doesn't attack you and your mount at the same time, even if you can't beat him, you can still run away very quickly. Alas, the imperial noble, who was very familiar with the great magician's abilities, let out a long sigh of unwillingness while comforting himself. Do you mind if I sit here? A withered, old, dry, dirty, black hand rested on the edge of the table. Puff! The imperial nobleman, who had just had close contact with the plump beauty, could not accept this huge contrast, and sprayed all the wine on the head of the owner of his hand. It's okay. I don't mind. I'm used to it, especially to you. The man with messy gray hair under the foam was a magician. However, compared with the majestic red-robed magician just now, this magician was too miserable. His face was full of wrinkles, his eye sockets were deeply sunken, with only a small slit in his eyes, a hooked nose, a flat mouth, and he was wearing— no, to be more precise, he was wearing a blue magic robe that was torn like a fishnet. This meant that he was a neutral magician. He held a long magic wand in his hand. The head of the magic wand, which should have been curved, was broken, and it was even more unknown what kind of magic stone was inlaid on it. Well, if he could still afford the magic stone. Hey, old man, forget it. You're pretending to be a great magician? The stimulated Chi Hanfeng could no longer maintain his noble demeanor, and pulled the magician logo on the fishing net without any hesitation. You don't know how to pretend to be professional. There is something wrong with your logo. Although the general shape is correct, look here, it should symbolize the neutral sea. Why is there a waterfall here? Young man, I want to ask you about someone. The old magician ignored the middle-aged man's rudeness and spoke very gently. I don't know. Although he was an imperial noble, the politeness after the first meeting was quickly replaced by the true face of the devil. Chi Hanfeng always ignored things that were not profitable. Do you know Chi Ningyuan? Ah, Chi Hanfeng was obviously stunned for a moment, and immediately shook his head. I don't know him. Oh, the pond water? I don't know him. Chi Hanfeng continued to shake his head. Oh, let me think about it. The old magician scratched his wet hair with his dry claws. Where is Chi? Chi Hongyun? No. Chi Hanfeng couldn't stop shaking his head and swallowed hard. No, I know him. His attitude suddenly became much more honest. Your last name is Chi, right? What's your name? Chi Hanfeng. Ning Lu, Hong, Yuan, De Han, Chang Xiao. Han, you little bastard, you little bastard. The old magician's dry hand, which was calculating with his fingers, suddenly swung up and hit Chi Hanfeng's flowing long hair hard. You still tell me you don't know him, don't you? Don't you even recognize your ancestors? Amy, not understanding what was going on, stared at the scene blankly, her mouth subconsciously opening wide. Wow, Uncle Chi, who is always teasing and bullying others, finally has this day. Feels so good. Although the little boy thought about it, he didn't dare to say it out loud. I don't know them. They have been dead for hundreds of years, and you didn't ask me if I knew them. For the first time, Chi Hanfeng behaved like a child and argued like a child. Don't explain. Explanation is just covering up. The old magician slapped Chi Hanfeng's head twice. As naughty as your grandfather Chi Ningyuan, who knows how many generations ago. He sprayed me with 1,000 grass leaf wine in the treehouse bar. Waiter, help me get a big glass of 1,000 grass leaf wine, and your best grilled chicken steak, and help me get a beautiful hostess. She must be from the human race and from the Eminor continent. The bill will be put on this handsome and suave young man. After signaling to the waiter, the old magician made a small movement, the target Chi Hanfeng. Boom! The victim fell on the table with a complex expression of surprise, disbelief, injustice, resentment, helplessness, nervousness, and desire to escape. Don't be nervous, he just drank too much. He will be fine soon. The old magician smiled flatteringly and comforted the guests around him. Hi, little brother. How are you? The old wizard thought for a moment, and suddenly moved his messy head in front of Amy. No, my last name is not Chi, and I don't have any money, you see. The little boy, who had already witnessed the power of the great magician, quickly turned his pockets upside down one by one, while frantically framing him. The money is all with him, and we just met. No, we don't know each other. The little black tail was shaking tremblingly behind the originally kind and simple fawn's butt. Oh, I want to ask you about someone. Help! Robbery! So many things happened in such a short time. It seemed that he had reached the limit of what a 14-year-old boy could bear. Amy, who dared to challenge the berserker alone. Poor Amy shouted loudly. But something even more heartbreaking happened. He couldn't make any sound. The red-robed wizard had an idea flashing through his mind, and Amy jumped up immediately. Oh no, Amy wanted to jump up immediately and ask for help. Then he was surprised to find that the story that just happened to the berserker was happening again, except that the target was changed. Lake Harbor? Do you know him? I don't know anyone. Please spare me. Dad, my dad. Amy opened and closed her mouth. The old magician understood what he meant. He snapped his dry fingers and Amy fell to the ground. List of magical weapons in War of the Gods. Page 15, column 2, Ice Blade. Two-handed sword. Length, 1.6 meters. Original weight, 22.5 kilograms. Magic attribute, Ice. Magic Blesser. Ice-type Elf Master Irelands. Special attack effects. Ice Blade, level 1 magic, and Ice Storm, level 2 magic, appear randomly. In the Ice and Snow field, you can summon Iceland Spear, level 3 magic. If you have enough mana, you can summon Ice Spear Forest, level 4 magic. If you reach a contract with Irelands, you can cast Ice Crazy Dragon, level 5 magic, and Ice and Snow World, field, forbidden spell. Note, the weapon used by Mercenary King Amy in his early years, although included in the weapon list of the War of the Gods. In fact, the Mercenary King rarely used this weapon again in the War of the Gods. War of the Gods. List of magical weapons.